Hey.
Now we're live.
Hello, everybody. Whatever.
Oh,
This is Taralyn, Michelle, and Billy Wroe live. As y'all see, he cutting up already. We didn't even get started yet. Can you hold it together?
I'm trying. I'm trying.
I want to thank you all for tuning in with us tonight. It's going to be fun, I think, because we're going to be talking about the mask. Oh, yeah. The masks that are. I mean, well, this can go in so many different directions. So I'm not going to define what the mask could be. We're just going to kind of let it go the way that it goes. But I'm curious because when we first talked about this, Billy, when you and I talked about this, I wasn't sure what you had in mind or what you thought about this topic. I've thought of a couple things that I want to throw out there with you, but I'm curious, my friend, when you think about the mask, what comes to mind for you?
Ooh-wee. There's a lot that comes from mine. And really, if I was to put it into one word, I think of the persona. And you and I have conversations about this persona all the time. But
Mhm.
really, it comes to trying to display something, not because that's who you want to be, but because that's who you think everybody else wants you to be. So when I think about exposing the mask, that's what immediately comes to my mind is that persona that that we project in hopes to be accepted by those around us, even though it may mean that we're not accepted by ourselves entirely.
That makes me think of. I'm trying to think of. There was it's a hip hop song. I can't remember which one it is, but it talks about people actually it's not the song, it's actually after the song. There's a segment where they're having a conversation and they're talking about the uniqueness of how music used to be. Like you could have everybody in a circle, old African tradition, and they would have this circle of music going, and everybody would add on something new and add on something unique and continue to expand upon the music that was being made. And then the music industry at some point got to where we're not adding on individual unique pieces. Everybody's just copying the next person that had something that they were coming out with because whoever said that's what was hot. So
Right.
that's kind of what this reminds me of. People kind of watering down their individuality because they're afraid that if it's different than what's hot, maybe it won't fit. Not understanding that the fact that you're different is what makes it hot. But anyway,
Exactly. The uniqueness is what adds the flavor. It's the seasoning salt.
it's the spices.
Good evening or afternoon, depending on where you're at. It looks like we have three people already that have jumped in on the live. Um, the other thing, in that what you're saying reminds me of is mimicry. We're mimicking each other,
Mhm.
and I forget. I'm sure if I wasn't on camera live, I could probably remember what animal this is. But there are animals that in nature that they will mimic other animals as a means of defense, and
Yeah.
so this mimicry would make it seem bigger than it is, would make it seem like it's a predator instead of prey.
Mhm.
And because of that, it's a defense to keep people who would are animals who would typically eat that animal at bay. And so when I think of this mimicry in the human condition, I
Mhm.
think about not necessarily keeping the bullies or the alpha males or the alpha females away,
Mhm.
but in a means of keeping the the sadness or the pain or the emotions that come with rejection at bay. Hey, look, I'm one of you guys, so I fit in, right?
Right.
Right?
Right. Right.
um,
Exactly.
that's what that reminds me of. So I'm
Yeah.
really looking forward to this conversation, exposing the mask. I'm actually gonna update the banner because it's gonna continue to go, but I want it to have the show name on it.
Absolutely. And also for those of you who are tuned in now, if you want to come to the stage with us and have your say, come on up. Let us know. We'd be more than happy to add you to this conversation. We're talking about exposing the mask. I have to, I have to ask this because this is one that's pretty popular now, Billy.
Oh boy.
The brothers don't care for it. Well, you know what? I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to say that. Okay, so you know how women we love to play around with makeup. You know where this is going.
Mhm.
We love to play around with
Fraudulent activities,
yeah,
yes.
yeah,
The
well,
ordinance, yes.
okay, but here's the thing though. Here's the thing though. Here's the thing. There are some women who transform with makeup, and it's about artistry. It's not necessarily about trying to misrepresent who they are. They just enjoy makeup, they enjoy the technique, they enjoy the look, that type of thing. Now, I know, or I would think that when men would meet women who have transformed their looks with makeup, a man would know that this is just artistry and this is just something that you like, and you really don't look any, that is not, your nose is not like that. That's contouring, and a man would know that. So,
Right.
would you consider something like that? Women who are really big into the artistry with the makeup and actually change their features using makeup. Would you consider that one of those types of situations where it could be taken as someone misrepresenting or trying to hide who they actually are, wearing a mask in that context?
Okay, so I'm all about intent. Intent is a very important part of this conversation for me. Me personally, makeup's not really my thing. Like, it's okay if we're like going out or something. Even like jewelry's not my thing. So I'm married, but I don't have my ring on right now because it's just I'm not used to having things on me.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to makeup, that's not really my thing. I really want to know that the person that I'm with is the person that I'm with, both outside and inside.
Mm-hmm.
That may, in some people's minds, feel or sound kind of superficial. But I don't want to go to bed with somebody. For instance, imagine if my wife had worn makeup the entire time of our dating courtship, and then we get married, and now she feels comfortable taking her makeup off and revealing who she is on the outside. Um, I feel like as a man, as a heterosexual male, I don't wear makeup. I don't have like a drawn on goatee. I'm not coloring my beard or anything like that. I'm just, you get what you get, and if you don't like that, that's okay. I might not be your cup of tea, but guess what? I'm gonna still be the same cup of tea. It's just gonna be for somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
So when the makeup thing comes around, it's always a challenge for me because I do see some women who utilize makeup not as an artistry, but as a true mask because they have not accepted who they are.
Mm-hmm.
Flaws and all. Like, look, if you got acne, you got acne. Rock with it. There was a time where I would get the same 3 pimples right in the middle of my forehead for like, I don't know, it was like 4 or 5 years. Same 3 pimples would just pop up in the middle of my forehead. Didn't know why, but there was no makeup or blemish or concealer. Or, I don't know all the makeup terms, so forgive me. But there wasn't anything that I could do to cover that up. It was just like you get who you get. So I'm always challenged with this makeup concept when it is coming from an intent of low self-esteem and or deceit. When you're trying to deceive somebody, then I can't really get on board with makeup. If you just happen, if we're at a high-end event and you happen to be all dressed up and you have a lot of makeup on, or you have a decent amount of makeup on, then that makes sense for the area in which we're interacting. But if we're like at the gym and you got to put on a whole face before we go to the gym, then I start, for me, that just doesn't resonate well with me because there's nothing that when, like, if I go to the grocery store or if I go out and about, period, I kind of go out in whatever I go out in, but whatever I'm in, regardless, I'm always me. And so you
Mm-hmm.
get Billy no matter where Billy is at. There's no different types of Billy. It's just, this is Billy. If you don't like this Billy, it's okay. There's probably another person named Billy out there that maybe you like. So
Mm-hmm.
what about yourself on the makeup thing? Because I know I've seen you with makeup and I've seen you without makeup, and honestly, you look the same with or without.
Because you know what, I'm not really big on it being heavy. Now, some events and things that I'll do, I'll have a makeup artist, and they always do more than what you're used to doing. But I figure, okay, given the event, that's the point, you know.
Right.
But I'm every day. I'm not a lash person, you know. I don't do a whole lot anyway. So if I do my own makeup, yeah, it's not gonna look like that much because I just don't. I don't. I've done my own makeup and tried to make it a little bit more than what I'm used to doing, but I don't know. I don't can't do that like that. But for me, I don't think that there's anything wrong with enhancement. I'm a girly girl. I love the makeup, the jewelry, all of those types of things. Enhancement is fun, just simply because it's fun. Just to wake up one day and say, hey, I think this is what I'm gonna do with my face, or this is what I'm gonna do with my cheeks, or I don't see anything wrong with that. I agree with you in that if it's something to cover up or to change due to insecurity, then that's something that is not healthy. Kind of like I know a lot of women who are considering going natural.
Hmm.
That's another thing because we already have an idealism of what beauty is and what that standard is supposed to be and what that look is supposed to look like. I think now more so than ever before in history, you see more women embracing their natural hair and just their natural blackness. So that's more acceptable now, but there's still some women who really struggle with that. They struggle with their idea of beauty, be it the permed hair with straight hair, or a lot of women like to wear extensions and weaves and wigs, and which I don't see anything wrong with any of that either. But again, some women have a challenge with seeing themselves differently than what they've told themselves beauty is.
Mm.
And so in those types of instances, yeah, I think that's just like it has to be a self-check moment because at the end of the day, I used to be like that before I went natural. Before I used to wear the wigs and extensions and all of that, and I got to a space where I realized when I wanted to go natural that man, I've become reliant upon this stuff. I
Right.
only see myself one way, and that was a problem for me. And so I took on going natural as a challenge. I was like, it is bizarre to wake up and not feel comfortable the way God made you. That's odd.
Right.
But it feels natural to feel comfortable with a whole bunch of other things on. So I think that it's just having the right balance with it. But I have to say, now there are men out there because I know you've seen those videos. What's the boundary then? Because you have the men out there who are sitting up in shops, they bald in the middle, got the bozo thing going on, and
Hmm.
they get their hair put on. And I mean, they have it looking like they have a full head of hair with a fade. Some of them get locks. I mean, the people who do the I guess they're toupees still. I don't know. I
I don't
guess
know. I guess the people who do them are artists, though.
they are because when I see them, I'm like, wow. But me personally, I see the side of it with the artistry, but me as a woman, I don't know that I would want that for my man. Where you going today? Yeah, babe, I'm going to the shop, get my fade put on, and I don't know. It's just something about that maybe I'm just traditional, old school.
Hmm.
Yeah, that doesn't work for me with a man. But I don't necessarily feel like if a man were to do that, that's necessarily an insecurity. Some men are just, I guess, just like with women, if they start to lose their hair, maybe they're not ready for that just yet, or maybe they
Right.
don't want that. So I don't know. What do you think the line would be for that?
Well, before I was getting ready to pull in author Damian Rowe. He just fell out. Um, we'll bring him on when he comes back, if he comes back on. But the line, again, the line for me is deception. Um, if this is to increase your confidence, it would make me feel as if why would we attach our hair to our confidence? And I don't know, maybe because I went bald. I started going bald at an early age. And I just was like, I went from having a flat top to having waves to like, hey, you know what? This hairline seems to be betraying me a little bit. Let me go ahead and start taking this hair
It was
off.
betrayal.
It was a betrayal. Um, and so it just, I don't know. For me, I think the line is really deception. And the other part of the line, and for me, is you, whether I put on a toupee or I'm wearing makeup or any other kind of mask, figuratively or literally, um, who I am should never change.
Hmm.
And that for me is where the line is. When I am in a business suit, I don't feel any different. When I'm in a t-shirt and basketball shorts, I don't feel any different. So the line for me is that if I'm putting on a mask or taking off a mask, both on and off, at the end of
Hmm.
the day, I should still be me regardless. It looks like author
Got
Damian
Damien.
Rowe is back. Let's get him on to this chat, see what he wants to share with the people.
Yes.
And I think he is on. I have no idea because this is the first time I've brought somebody on.
Uh-huh.
Arthur Damien
I can
Rowe,
see
can
you,
you hear us?
Damien.
I'm here. Can you guys hear me?
We can
Yep.
hear you. We can't see you, but we can hear you.
Turn your camera on.
Yeah, my camera is actually on. I've been having some problems with this. Sorry, guys.
No problem.
No
Well, we
problem.
can hear you. We'll take a voice. What you got?
I don't know how to fix this. Sorry, guys.
No, that's okay. That's okay.
I'm actually hearing four of you on my end, which is a treat, by the way.
Do you still have the live up? Because if you have the live up, it'll be delayed.
That could probably be why. But yeah, I mean, it's an interesting dynamic. Definitely.
Absolutely.
The
Well,
balance between the two.
while he gets it together. Oh,
There you
there he
go.
goes. You must have had to allow some permissions and the permissions to allow.
Bruh, I don't usually have to ask for this much permission.
So what you got, Damien? What are your thoughts?
You know, I really wanted to comment on something Taralyn said a few moments ago before my technical difficulties started. I'm not sure if you guys had an opportunity to view my comment, but you said something really key in that I think Billy was talking about makeup, how, you know, some people, they mask, that makeup is their mask. If you really think about over the course of the last couple of years, how the media has shed such a strong light on mental health epidemic, there's so many people in society who face identity crisis every single day. And when I look at now, when I'm scrolling through social media, if I'm getting ready to post something, or if I'm you know, looking to see what the current events for the day is, as a man in society, especially as a black man,
Mm-hmm.
it breaks my heart to no end when I see, and I don't even know these people, by the way, when I see beautiful, beautiful, gorgeous black women demeaning themselves by what they post every day. That is the mask that I'm looking at, because when women like that post those things, what I really see, I really don't see the fact that you have almost no clothes on. I just see that you're hurting internally. And so the post is a distraction from what hurt you. And it looks like that hurt's been there for some years. That's what I see. Like, I really go deeper with it. And those are the type of masks that I think we need as community leaders, like the three of us, as authors who have a platform to voice our concerns about how we care for people by what we write. Like, we write what we write because we care about the public. We want to put something out there that makes the reader grow, that makes the reader reflect, and also that helps the reader get from where they are to where they're trying to go. And I think if you really consider yourself a transparent person, the people who are out there exploiting themselves publicly like that, they really have to be in accountability mode and deal with the elephant in the room. Because you think you're just posting a picture about you going out on the town for the night, but for those of us looking at that picture you post, we see how much you're hurting. So you can only front for so long. You can only front for so long. You can only hide behind the eyeshadow and the foundation and the wigs and, you know, clothes that you really don't even have a taste to wear. You're just wearing it to fit in at the party. Like, you're not being your authentic self. Those are the different masks. It goes far beyond the facial appearance of what we typically see when we look at people or when we interact with people. And I think this is a conversation that needs to happen for a long time.
No, I definitely agree with that. You know, it's interesting because there are people who will see these social media posts, and I don't know when the trend became I'm gonna take a picture with my butt out, but um
That part.
there's people who see that and are like, why, what is the intent behind doing that? And then there's other people who are just as hurt and running around with their own masks on who say, yeah, like, oh, hello, gorgeous, hello, beautiful, hello, handsome, hello, sexy, all these different things. And it almost goes back to what Bruce said in our first episode about going back to the status quo or back to the regularly scheduled programming, because nobody wants to be the first one to say, hey, look, I'm having a crappy day and things are not flowing necessarily the way that I would like to have them flow. I'm going through something, and because I'm going through something, I don't know how to ask for help, so I'm taking this picture, or I'm doing this activity, or I'm putting on whatever mask that may be in order to make myself feel better and to kind of hide the fact that there's something else going on. Because, you know, when you walk past a stranger on the street and you say, hey, how's it going? Your expectation is they're going to say it's going pretty well. Your expectation isn't that they're going to dump 1,000 pounds of grief and life experiences and everything they're going through. Well, I can't pay the mortgage. I can't pay the lights just went off. I don't got no food. The car broke down. You're not expecting that. So of course, just as you pass that stranger, if something's going on in your life, oh, I'm good. How are you? Oh, I'm good. You could be having the worst day, the worst quarter, the worst year of your life, but you're not going to open up to say that because the mask requires that you continue to, everything is super fantastic and everything isn't always that way. Taralyn, what you got?
Yeah, I think people don't want to hear about things going on in other folks' lives that may be unpleasant, because I think a lot of the times it could be a trigger for some of the things that they're trying to forget about, that they don't want to talk about. And so keeping those things on the low is what makes everybody comfortable. And I think as a society, we've been doing that for a long time. We've been operating in this space of keeping people comfortable, subscribing to what someone else told us the norms are, and continuing to go with that while we die on the inside, while we wake up and go to jobs that we hate every day, that we try to maintain relationships that we really want out of, and keep associations that we really don't want anymore, that we just deny basic things about ourselves because it's what makes everybody else comfortable and keeps the even playing field. And I think that, Damien, when you were talking about the different ways in which people display hurt, I think, and the mental health issues, what came to mind, I think the biggest gift to society, one of the biggest gifts to society, when we're talking about mental health issues, is catfish. Catfish, see how completely and totally messed up people are, and how socially inept some people are, so much so that they would create an identity and sit in a room on a computer and live through that identity in existence that they don't have the courage to just go out and create for themselves in real life. That shows how people use the internet, how people use social media, and it's sad. It's sad and it's deep. And even if people are not catfishing in that way, a lot of the personas that people create with the pictures that they post, the type of dialogue that they put out, the narrative that they create, that's not the actual narrative for how they're living. All of those things are it's just so many different layers to it. And I think that we have to get to a space where there are more places where people feel comfortable, even if it's more intimate, private groups, to open up and have conversations where you're allowed to put out on the table what it is that has you hiding, and get the support to get out of it. Because life is just so dope when you have the courage to just get up and live it. Good, bad, indifferent, it doesn't matter. It's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be pretty. But at the end of the day, when you're living it authentically and it's yours, then there's so much joy in that. So that's what it made me think about.
Very, very, very well said, Taralyn. As you were talking, you made a comment a few minutes ago about dying from the inside out. And I couldn't have said it better, because when you know I mean, people can front and be whoever they want to in front of people like us, in front of people who really have that level of spiritual discernment to see what the real is on the surface. But at the end of the day, you can put on your mask to hide from whatever reality you're going through currently, or whatever reality you've been trying to navigate through. But at the end of the day, all you're doing is delaying the inevitable.
Mm-hmm.
It's like kicking a can down the street. The can doesn't disappear the further you get up the street. It's still a can. So no matter where you think you're going, as long as you're kicking that can instead of just reaching down and picking it up and dealing with it, or maybe just picking it up and tossing it in a trash can nearby you, you're just delaying the inevitable. Whatever problem existed 20 years ago, the more you mask that problem, you're going to have to deal with it 20 years from now.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't go away because you're ignoring it. And as Billy was talking a few minutes ago, I made this distinction with one of my life coaching clients that I remember from a few years ago. And I simply was trying to explain to her what we're talking about also is the equivalent of, say, a person who was a victim of a sexual assault, a very terrible sexual assault, let's say. Beat up, sent to the hospital, broken bones, broken nose, whatever. And then 20 years go by and the person is living a normal life. Well, now 20 years down the road, the person who did it, who's been on the run all this time, has finally been captured. Now it's time for the person to get charged formally and go to court and start the whole, legal process and get convicted of what that person did to this woman 20 years prior, right? All this time, she's been masking, ignoring what happened, and now here it is in her face again. There's so many people out in the world like that, like having to deal with what was never resolved. And it's painful because now you have to really peel back the scabs of what hurt you 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And you have to deal with it. So you could deal with it now and try to heal from it right now, or you can keep ignoring it and you can keep putting on whatever mask you think is feasible and deal with it later down the line. But at the end of the day, at some point in time, as life goes on, you're gonna have to deal with it.
Yeah, I agree with that. It reminds me of a portion of the book, Fire Your Job, Hire Your Passion,
Mm-hmm.
in which I was speaking about this argument that I was having with somebody. And in an attempt to, I'm going to loosely use the word win the argument,
Mm-hmm.
they brought up something that was like 8 years old. Well, you did this. And I was like, oh, did you think that I was still impacted by a decision I made 8 years ago? Because that decision I made with the resources and the mental capacity that I had at the time to make it. Today, I wouldn't make that decision. Hence, I'm in a better situation today than I was 8 years ago. But it is important to really deal with and clean things out, because what it does is it gives you your power back and takes that power away from whatever the situation may be. If it's, I could have a crooked tooth or a chipped tooth or whatever, it doesn't matter what it is, but I could have something that I'm whether insecure. So funny, I barely use that word. But I can have something that I'm insecure about, and be like, oh my gosh, here I'm in a room full of 100 people, and all I can think about is everybody's looking at my cracked tooth.
Mm-hmm.
Cousin Mo was big on this. He'd be like, hey, people be asking, Moses, when you gonna get that tooth fixed? When you gonna get that tooth fixed? And when I get it fixed, apparently it's bothering you, but it's not bothering me.
Right.
Not to that level. So, I mean, unless you want to kick in the funds to get the tooth fixed, the tooth will get fixed when that becomes a priority for me. And that's really when we stop wearing masks. Like, I didn't even think about it until I tried to say the word insecure. When we stop wearing masks, we become so comfortable in our own skin to the point that nobody has the ability or the authority to define who we already know we are. It's up to us to make that definition. And once we have it, it's like, yeah, sorry, you don't get to call the shots for me. That could be your opinion of who you think I am, but who I am for me, this is who I am, and I know that to be the truth. So I definitely that resonates with me. When you don't resolve something in the present, it doesn't go away. It's almost on the opposite side of that in a relationship. If you cheat in the beginning of your relationship and now you're 20 years down the road and that infidelity comes out to the light, oh, you cheated 20 years ago. Oh, you start paying the consequences for that action like it just happened yesterday.
Absolutely.
We call that retro.
Yes,
retroactive.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Anyone and I think Taralyn, if I may, real quick, I think Taralyn Billy said something or hinted toward relationship issues at the very beginning. I mean, that mask that we put on sometimes really can adversely affect wonderful relationships. And so I'm using the term wonderful relationships lightly because I'm just imagining in my mind, you know, a young man, you know, dating maybe for the first time or maybe dating for the first time in a long time, finally finds that one, you know, female that he's feeling or whatever. He wants to get to know her better, blah, blah, blah. But when you go into that relationship with that mask on, you're really kind of cheating from the get-go, because I want, if I get in a relationship with you, I want to fall in love with you for who you really are. I don't want to fall in love with your alter ego. Mm-hmm. I don't want to fall in love with this alternative personality that you've created in your mind to help you get through whatever you're going through. Like, I want to get to know you for who you really and genuinely and truly are. So if you keep that facade going at the onset of a relationship, you know, there's so many people out there asking for God to bring the right person into their life. And then when that moment happens, you don't know how to act. And that one relationship, you might have been waiting years for God to bring you that one promising relationship. And when he brought it to you, you kept your mask on. Mm-hmm. So the blessing that you've asked for was given to you, but then you turned around and decided to keep the mask on and say, well, thanks for the blessing, God, but I changed my mind. I'm going to handle it this way. And then it's just a matter of time before that relationship falls apart. It's temporary. If you're gonna hide behind a mask in between now and the end of time, everything you touch is going to be temporary.
I agree.
Did you just click that, or did I accidentally click that?
I clicked it.
Okay, can you bring that in?
Absolutely. Rashida, she says, and I love this when she says, my smile has been my mask, and so has my laughter. I use them to cover hurt, pain, and disappointment. Yeah, I can definitely relate to that. And I think a lot of the times that is what we do. You know, we have to have something to fill that space, especially when we're not ready to stand in whatever our truth is at that moment. And so we'll come up with whatever is doable for us in that moment and roll with that. And then Damien, to your point, introspection seems like such an incredibly difficult thing to do. But I think that all of us, I believe, at some point in time in our life has had a space where we were not living in our authentic truth. That's Absolutely. So much harder than introspection. It's like once you do introspection, you was like, man, I made a big deal out of this. This was not that bad. It's one of those types of things where it requires you to give yourself permission to own what your truth is and not judge yourself about it. And that's the hard part. I think for me, coming to a space where I could own what my truths were, because I had made them up to just be so dirty. And a lot of the times we think that we're the only ones who have made certain mistakes, and not everything we do is a mistake. Some things we just wanted to do it. We knew it probably wasn't the best thing to do, but hey, this is the moment I'm in. This is what I'm going to do. And that's what it is, you know. But Getting to a space where you can have those truthful moments with yourself, have those truthful moments with God, and understand that an experience is not who the soul is. It can be if you don't learn anything from it, but an experience is just that. Then that allows you to have the courage for the ugly to be your truth, the ugly to be an experience. The ugly is not who you are. So now you get to move forward and define inauthentic truth and show who you really are. But
Mm.
would we really rise to the level of who we were created to be in our gifts and our greatness if we didn't have those low moments as a space to contrast? You know what I'm saying? That's how we really get to know who we really are and what we're made of, when we can say without question definitively, that ain't me.
Right.
When
Right.
you can say, I know for certain that ain't me. Okay, so now I get to decide who I am. Now I
Mm.
get to decide what behavior aligns with who I say I am. How do I have to be? How do I have to show up and be in this world so that when when I'm in that space and I'm occupying it as my authentic self, what does that look like? What's that energy like? What level am I vibrating on? What am I bringing to me when we talk about manifestation? What am I bringing to me by what I'm putting out? And so I think those lows, as much as people hate them and run from them, they're also very necessary when we talk about reaching the ultimate high and continuing to grow from there, and continuing to be able to, as servants and as thought leaders and as people with platforms, to be able to take other people with us, the people who we're meant to serve within our tribe. So it's necessary. And I think when people get to the space where they have the courage to embrace it, then that's when things really open up and you get to experience what it's like to live in some sense of freedom.
And I
Yes.
and I think everything that you said just now was so bomb. Like I was so just engulfed in what you were saying, because this is something Billy and I talk about quite a bit. And the key word of everything that you said was growth. And so I look upon your words that you just said right now as kind of like, if you will, an intellectual fertilizer, right? Like when you understand that there is no such thing as a perfect relationship and you accept that that's what it is, you acknowledge that mistakes are going to be made,
Yep.
period. Mistakes are going to be made by you. Mistakes are going to be made by the other person. But when you talk about growth, when you notice that you're having the same exact types of problems in your life with the same types of people, or it could even be with different people, that's a sign that ought to be a sign to that individual that there is no growth. Like growth is not happening. Because if you recognize mistakes are going to come anyway, it only makes sense to make different mistakes. But when you keep making the same mistakes, there's a disconnect somewhere, there's a miscommunication somewhere, or there's no communication whatsoever, or you're just not mature enough to acknowledge that you're not growing because you keep making the same mistakes. And that's why I kind of gave that little like impromptu title to what you said, intellectual fertilizer, because these are things that everybody has to think about.
Yeah.
It's like the relationship will go so much smoother if everybody is just their natural, genuine, honest, transparent self.
Mm-hmm.
You can only play the role so far. You can only go so long with it. I mean, how many Rocky movies did we all watch? I mean, at some point in time, you didn't want to see another Rocky movie.
Right.
Right.
And some of us are reliving Rocky 5 over and over because
Right.
we're not growing.
Oh, Rocky 12, the same plot, different character.
Exactly. What to do? Just a brief. Oh no, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Billy.
Oh, I was going to bring in what Rashida had said. Always acting happy makes people comfortable. And I'm going to come back to that, and kept me from having to be vulnerable in my relationships. I think this is the other side of what you and Damien are talking about in the regards to, hey, you're going to, at some point, you should be experiencing lows. At some point, you should be experiencing highs. That's normal. That's life. But when you wear this mask that says, everything's okay, everything's fine. You make people comfortable. And when people are comfortable, they don't grow. They don't change behaviors that are toxic to their own relationship. Why? Because there's no indicators that are giving them signs, bells, or whistles that are saying, hey, this is not working for other people. And not that I have to cater to other people, but if I'm in a relationship where I love somebody, I care about their well being, I want the best for them, I want them to succeed, I want us to succeed, then why am I not going to work to compromise to help them become the best version of them? And
Yeah.
so when we keep that mask on and we act like everything is okay and everything is all right, then the person doesn't grow. And I had this. This is where probably all of my growth stemmed from, is growing up and in relationships, it was always whatever I want, however I want to do it, my way or the highway. And so I
Mhm.
never was required to grow because people coming into the relationship with me knew, well, if I piss Billy off, he'll just dip. He'll be like, I'm out. And so that kept me for a long time from growing into maturity when it comes to, or came to being in relationships, to where, I mean, it took a long time, like into my 30s, before I was like, okay, I think I understand that there's some give and take to this thing. And so um for me, I think about how different my trajectory would have been. It may have been a little more steep as far as the lessons that I learned, but it would have taken off a lot faster into understanding how to compromise and how to have healthier relationships, whether intimate relationships or platonic relationships, how to just have overall healthier relationships. So I think that what Rashida says is very important. Always acting happy. Yeah, it makes people feel comfortable and you think that you're keeping the peace, but at the end of the day, you're doing them and yourself a disservice.
I think it all goes back to, some people live their lives looking for the path of least resistance, not understanding that least resistance means that there's nothing that you have to really strategize or think about or really invest any of yourself in. If there's nothing required of you, then people don't tend to just put themselves into things where they're not required to, unless it's something that they choose, you know. So it's so very important. I've learned, for me, I'm still learning, I'll say, there, when something makes me feel uncomfortable, back in the day, I'd be like, I'm out, I'd find another way or do something else, or very, very impatient is how I used to be. If I was uncomfortable, then that was my sign that I needed to go the other way, or maybe I was doing something wrong. I learned over some years that when you're uncomfortable, that's a gift that God has given to you to level you up, because we'll pray for things, we'll want things, we'll try to manifest things, but at the end of the day, when we're thinking about what we want, we're typically thinking about the end result. No one
Right.
really thinks about the pathway to get there. And so I've learned that when things happen upon my path that make me uncomfortable, that challenge me, that make me have to, whoa, stop and redo the way I was thinking about something. Maybe I have to formulate another way to go about it. That is actually serving my good. Where it is that I want to get to, the end result that I'm looking at, there's a whole lot that has to happen for Taralyn, the spirit woman, to be ready to receive what it is that she's asking for and not buckle under the pressure. It's not going to just happen up. And because it happens up, I'm going to be ready for it. There's some preparation that has to happen. So that pathway is the preparation that's building me to be prepared for what it is that I want to receive. And so it's not just about getting to the end result, it's about being built from within, acquiring some wisdom, learning how to work yourself and work the situation, so that when you get there, you can maximize it and it's sustainable. It's not for a moment. A lot of people are looking for quick fixes. They want everything right now and then they wonder why it doesn't last. But that preparation, although it's taxing, although it's emotionally stressful, sometimes it can be spiritually stressful. It's a lot. It's a place where when we're going through this, or I know when I'm going through it, I have to intentionally choose to stay connected and figure out different ways to weather the storm so that I don't fall off track. I have to choose to be present, choose to work at it every day, and choose to see the end result and understand that even if I don't know exactly how this fits into it, it does.
Right.
And so having the courage to walk through those things instead of walking around them, embracing the challenge, embracing the fact that you got to do something different than what you're used to doing. You
Right.
have to think of something different. You might have to become somebody different. You might have to strategize differently. You might have to expand your network. You might have to give of yourself in ways, maybe support someone else in order to be able to get access or maybe even the knowledge from someone else for what it is that you're doing. You might have to think outside of the box. Who knows? It could be a lot of different things. But when you're embracing something that is resisting what you're trying to do, you're actually embracing leveling up within yourself. And I would pray that everybody is open to going on that journey.
Absolutely. Really quick, let's bring in what Jennifer Chambers said. I believe that many of us have been vulnerable in the past, but were met with petty individuals who use that against us when we disagree. I have
Yeah.
seen this with people who we should be able to trust. Absolutely. Anybody want to
Oh,
weigh in on that? Ding.
Damien,
Go
go
ahead,
You
Ding.
ahead.
know, you know, immediately when I heard the word petty, the first word that came to my mind was immature.
Mm.
Right away. So
Yeah.
whoever that individual is, you know, agreeably so, I'm sure we're all at different levels because we've all been through different things that have taken us from where we were to where we are. And this is the stage in our life right now that if we don't tweak things, if we're not willing to, like as Taralyn said a little while ago, if we're not willing to level up and accept responsibility for the things that we have caused, adversities we've caused to possibly go wrong in our own life or in our own situation, like growth is non-existent. It doesn't, it can exist. So when I heard that word, I just thought of immaturity.
Yeah.
And if things in that person's life continue to stay the way they are, they're living in their future now. Like their future is now. Their future is their present. And that's what I had a mentor tell me a long time ago. I never forgot it. And it was very simple. And it just hit me like a ton of bricks that if you continue to stare your past in the face every day, you will never see your future.
True
That
story.
hits hard, man. That's like a direct blow, you know. And you know, Taralyn, much to what you just finished up on, Billy and I have talked about that as well. Like with his first book coming out, you know, and Billy, if you remember this, we just not all that long ago talked about the fact that when I first got my copies and was all excited that I could touch it, right? Like the book is in my hand. It's no longer a conversation. It's tangible, right?
Right.
Uh-huh.
It was just like a peace came over me because now it's in my hand and I can do with it what I will. But one thing Billy and I were talking about some weeks ago was that as writers, people really don't get to experience what it took us to go through writing that. You know, and the same goes to when I was in the music business, when we had first got signed to Capitol Records back in the early 90s. All of our friends saw limos picking us up. They came to our shows, you know, sometimes they could sneak backstage, sometimes it wasn't the place or the time, but always having fun, always having money to spend, always at the Beverly Center buying clothes for our friends, going to the nicest restaurants. But you know, the one thing they didn't see, they didn't get a chance to see that when the show was over and the limo took us back to our apartment, we had no furniture. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of like how the older folks, when we were kids growing up, you didn't know what it really meant at the time, but you used to always hear older people saying everything that glitters ain't gold.
Right.
It's really true. I know I have a couple of friends of mine. I mean, I've since lost touch with them, But I mean, actors and actresses I've seen on like major TV productions, film productions, used to sleep on people's couch, used to sleep on people's floor in sleeping bags, you know? And that's the reality of it all that society oftentimes doesn't get to see. And
Right.
that's another reason as to why it's so important to be transparent. Because when you cross the threshold of where most of us in life have made it to, you really don't have time to be playing with people. You really don't.
Nah.
Because tomorrow's not promised. So if you can acknowledge that tomorrow is not promised, people need to start getting off of the lip service and be about their work.
True.
You know, we can all agree that faith without works is dead, right? Well, goals without works is dead too.
Right. Yeah.
I love that you mentioned the point about people having these successful, or what others would seem, because no, it is successful, having these successful events and different things that they are a part of, but behind the scenes what you describe as someone who's still building. I think that that's what people need to understand. Sometimes it is ugly when you're building. On the front side, you may have some great opportunities and some things that people that you can become aligned with, and different things that you can experience. But I think what was so great about you saying that is because since we're in this microwave society, everybody wants to press a button and the outside be pretty and behind the scenes be pretty. And the truth of the matter is it doesn't usually work like that. And that shouldn't discourage anyone from continuing along the course of investing their time, their talent, their money, whatever it is that they need to do to get to where it is that they want to be. Those things tend to come together in due time. But I think there's so many people out there that just quit too soon because they have an unrealistic expectation of what the journey is about. And that unrealistic expectation is painted all day, every day, with social
Mhm.
media and TV, and people are watching the Real Housewives of this and that. And you have a bunch of people who are already rich and you're just following them around all day. And then there's a bunch of average people out there who think that that's the way it's supposed to be. When you start a business, your business is supposed to be like Candy from the Real Housewives of Atlanta. Candy been in the
Right.
business doing what she doing since she was a teenager. You
Right.
know, it took a while to get to what you see today. And so the process, being along for the journey, giving yourself some grace and not comparing, not looking at what you see out there, having tunnel vision and focus on what you're doing, why you're doing it, who you are and where you're trying to get, and then just be consistent and watch your situation evolve so that you will get to a space where everything comes together, everything matches, and now that is your new normal. So thanks for putting that point out there, Damien.
Yeah. Taralyn, what one of the things that as soon as Damien said that, my brain said behind the grind, but also the grind defined.
Absolutely.
Because with what you do is you are bringing people who are known for various reasons for whatever they may bring to the table, but
Hmm.
they are sharing their journey. And in sharing their journey, they are saying, hey, these are the challenges that I had behind this. This was not some fairy tale, everything lined up right, and it was just great and warm and fuzzy. No, there was some struggles. There were those days where, there was a moment in my life where I was like in transition between, am I going to have a house or am I going to stay in my car? And so
Hmm.
when people see me today and they're like, oh, well, you own real estate, man, I'm trying to get to where you're at. I'm like, well, are you trying to go through what I went through?
That part.
Because that a lot of people don't want to sign up for that part. But
Right.
the other part is that I think, and this all ties back to the mask, is a lot of the conversations that I've been having one-on-ones about the book with people as I'm finding getting feedback and stuff like that has been that a lot of people think that they are alone in their experience, that I'm the
Yes.
only one who's struggling because everybody else, when you see their pictures, they're smiling and on vacation and everything's great. But they feel like they're the only one struggling. And what that makes me feel, or what it makes me think, is our experiences are unique to us. What I've gone through is different than what Taralyn's gone through, is different than what Damien has gone through, but our experiences are unique to us. However, adversity is universal to everybody. And so when we're in these moments where we're struggling and we're really trying to get our feet underneath us, and we feel isolated and we feel alone and we feel abandoned in those moments, it's important to realize that if the person next to you isn't going through it right now, they have gone through this as well. And you're not alone, because that's where hopelessness originates from. If I'm the only one who's got a budgeting problem and I can't, and my check account balance ain't balanced out, or I'm negative, if I'm the only one who's experiencing that, then the questions become, well, why am I even here?
Right.
If I'm the only one messing up, why am I here? I could take a chess piece off the board today and the world would be a better place. But the reality is all of us have struggles. All of us have challenges. And it's about connecting with one another on a human level, that though our experiences may be unique to us, though our challenges might be slightly different, all of us have challenges. And I don't care if you're broke, on welfare, negative below that, homeless, or you're a millionaire. All of us have challenges.
And they never stop. Because like you said, if they're not having them now, they have them again. Because it is definitely a human condition. And that's one of the things that I love about the Grind Defined, because some of the people, well, pretty much all of them, lots of super successful people that I have the opportunity to sit down and talk to and link with. And I really appreciate them wanting to share the grit. It feels so good to see people out there who want to shadow these phony stereotypes of what success is and what the journey is. And they want people to know what this really looks like. What some people, the front end is so pretty, and little do they know behind the scenes, the person who's working that business or doing their thing, they're like, man, I got 30 days to figure something out. The stuff gonna look real different,
Right.
They don't know there are so many different layers to this, and so I think it's so important to Grind Defined. I love it because when I had the idea of getting people together to have these conversations, quite frankly, I didn't think a lot of people would be with it. People don't like vulnerability. They just don't. They don't like talking about what they consider to be weak spaces. I've had some people say, you know what, I really love the idea of the show and I've listened to it and I like it, but I don't want to give people ammunition against me. The fact that they feel like exposing the fact that they're human gives someone outside of them ammunition against them it's crazy to me, but I get it. So it's I love that there are so many people willing to have these conversations, because I find that it's just as therapeutic for them as it is for people who actually listen to the show. So it's fun. It's a lot of fun.
I'd like to piggyback off of something Billy just explained a second ago. So have you guys ever walked by, this is a totally rhetorical question, but I'm just trying to create a visual picture. So have you ever just like been out shopping, maybe in the mall or something, and you walked by something at a jewelry store showcase, really caught your eye and you went to go look at it? Like a really nice, expensive piece of jewelry, right? We stand over that glass case and we look at that gold necklace or that gold ring or whatever, and it's just bling and so tough, right? So when you think about the process that gold goes through, right? Gold in its original dirty, filthy looking, nasty, grotesque looking form, it goes through intense heat so that all of the impurities in the gold can be boiled and filtered out. Once that process is done, then it becomes a workable material so that it can be turned into something beautiful. And then we're walking in the mall with our family and it catches our eye in a shopping mall or a shopping center, and we look at it and we go, man, that looks amazing. But when you remember where it came from and how it looked, there was nothing amazing about it. And I think that's why so many people, like what Billy shared a few minutes ago, are so afraid to walk their walk. They set goals, but when it comes to doing the work to navigate toward getting closer to that goal, they get cold feet, and those fear triggers start firing on all cylinders, right? Because nobody wants to walk through the fire. Everybody wants to shine, but nobody wants to get burned.
Come
In
on.
order in order for gold to shine the way we see it in a jewelry store, it has to go through the fire. There's no way around it. And we need to start looking at our goals and our dreams the same way, because even though we know it's not comfortable for us to, we know that if we can overcome that fear, where we're trying to get to is going to mean that much more when we get there. So all I'm saying to anybody listening is, don't be afraid to walk through the fire, because that's what's going to allow you to shine when all is said and done.
I love that. I love that. This has been so much more than what I thought it would be. This conversation, I knew it was going to be good, but it's like it gets better and better and better and better. Damien, I want to thank you so much for jumping on and just lending your amazing perspective to this conversation. It's been a pleasure to have you, and I hope we'll have you again.
Thank you so much.
It is time for us to wrap up. Billy, any final thoughts, my friend?
No final thoughts today. I feel like we had a good air out. I do want to bring in one last comment, Rashida, because this behavior is more than just with masks. But it says, we're told, don't let them see you sweat, or you don't have to look like what you're going through. This perpetuates the mask, our masking. And that resonates with me, especially with the I don't remember if it was last week or the week before last, because we talk so often. But with somebody telling me that I'm soft, and instead of becoming and throwing a mask back on to say, oh, I'm not soft, just being willing to say, hey, look, if that's your definition of soft, you're welcome to have that definition. But I think what I do on a day-to-day basis, it requires a mental fortitude that maybe you don't even have if you think that the fact that I'm willing to have this mental fortitude is soft. So definitely, Damien Wroe, appreciate you for being on again this evening. But that's my final thought. When are we doing this again? Every Tuesday, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and anywhere in between that.
That's right, sis. To go to the Grind to Find YouTube channel and follow me there. You will be alerted every time we upload. And next time, I hope to have you live on stage. Anyone watching, if you're catching us on the replay, #replay, let us know what your thoughts are on the show. If you want to join us live, it's easy to do. You can follow this show on the Grind Defines YouTube channel, link right there. You can also follow at First Row on YouTube, and you'll be updated when we upload. And you always have the opportunity to join us live. Thank you guys so much for joining myself and Billy Wroe. Until next time, people, peace and abundant blessings.
Peace.